Good morning, folks. Sunday morning, and got a little bit of chaos. This is about as chaotic as it gets around here. And yeah, just want to show you guys what I was working on yesterday, off and on, and what we're going to do, or what we're going to attempt to do this morning. So, yesterday, we pretty much finished up. We got a couple things to do. This ISU 152. This is the PST kit. And if you guys followed me yesterday morning, we did some of the separate link track there in the morning. We'll need to trim this off. Good morning, Ian. So this is what we worked on yesterday. And, it was challenging because there were none of these little markings where these things go, show you where they go. So I actually had to consult a big kit that was already built, because they were extremely vague about where almost all of these pieces were. But between all the references we have on the internet and everything, you know, it should be close enough. So we finished this thing up. I think we've got a couple more things to do till I ran out of time. I've got the front and the top and the bottom holes not glued. We're not going to do that until we're complete with it. And I went ahead and stripped the T3485 that I painted like 20 years ago, and which didn't go exactly as planned. The stripper that I used, even though it was recommended to use, actually will eat the plastic. So I don't know if you can tell, it's a little eaten there. Let's see if we can get this thing to focus. All right, go there and focus on that. I don't know. Anyhow, it's not going to be that noticeable because by the time we grime this up and everything, and it's, Russian construction. So what do you expect? We took one of the fenders off. We went ahead and painted this in the Russian green in about 3 different shades. So you added black, same thing I do with the figures, and brought it up like 3 levels. And then I gave it a dark brown glaze. Okay, same thing with running gear. This isn't as far as we're going to go. We're going to end up getting some of the metal that's shown there, but this is kind of the rusty type color there for the tracks. And of course, these are steel wheels. There's no rubber on them at all, so we're going to have some of the steel showing there. That's the intent anyhow. And the turret. Now, the turret side this morning, I went ahead and painted this gloss because we're going to put some decals, and that's actually what we're going to start off with. So we're going to put some decals on there and see how that goes. All right. So let's twist this thing around. See if I can do this without creating a disaster. And now we will flip. And okay, perfect. Let's get this cord out of the way. So the interesting thing is, I don't consider myself very disorganized, but so when things come out that not exactly as planned, it's more frustrating for me, I would think, normally be. But I had picked up the decals and I was looking at them, and I know I had a bunch of other ones. I don't remember where they went, but I ended up ordering some from Microscale, these right here. And I know I had decals left over for these. I don't think they were great or anything, but I did want the option to put them on there. I can't find them. For the life of me, I can't find where the heck they are. So we're going to use some of the decals off here. In the process of doing that, it actually gives you some examples here of some of the vehicles. And some of the names here of what some of the writing on the side. Of course, I can go on the internet and find just about anything. I could probably hand paint these as well, but I didn't really want to get into that at this point. But is interesting. One of these sayings actually says combat girlfriend. So I'm like, what? What is the story behind that? So actually, the story behind that is there's a tank. I don't know if this is true or not, but I did find it on the internet. So there was some Russian lady that was got her husband killed by the Nazis. I assume in Barbarossa. I didn't read a whole lot into it, but this is kind of an interesting thing, and maybe you guys will read a little bit more about it. But her husband was killed in when the Germans attacked, and she sold all of her possessions, as the story goes. Which, living in communist Russia, is probably a three-legged goat and a half-eaten loaf of bread. But regardless, whatever she had, she sold it and bought a tank with it. I guess Russian tanks are really cheap, and decided to command it and take it to the man. So that's kind of an interesting story. I just kind of glanced at that this morning. I really didn't go into deep, so that's the short version. If I got some of it wrong, well, but that's the cool thing about history. You'll read something and it'll make you want to know more about it. But anyways, we're going to go with we're going to put "Death to the Fascists" on here. Okay, and and I believe they have it in black and in white. So we're going to do it in white because this is a green tank. So that's these right here, or so they say. And there's several combat girlfriends, so I don't know if that's just a female tank crewman, or I don't know. I have no problem with putting that decal on my tank, but now we're talking about a specific vehicle, and I didn't want to have to paint it in a specific way. That's like, well, what's her name's tank really was never painted that way. There's always going to be one of those. So, right. So, we're going to, this is going to take up, let me cut this in half because I'm only going to do, one's going to go on each side. And I already did this successfully, so knock on wood, right? Okay, so this is going to go about here, which leaves space up here for a star. I think these big ones are too big. I think we need to use the smaller ones, so we're going to get 2 of these. Now, the last time I put this glaze on, I used too much of the this glaze medium, and it took several days to dry out. So I made it a point not to do that this time because, and you can see here as well, one of them looks a little wet-ish. Let's see if I could catch that in the light. A little shiny here, but it actually makes it super, super matte. And there's some in here as well. Because we're going to dry brush this, but when you dry brush it, you're not going to get the dirt where the dirt's normally going to stick. So you're going to have dirt that's going to clump in the deeper recesses. So the only way to do that is to paint this entire thing brown and then work it up into the green and then dry brush on top of that, or use this glaze. So that's what I did on the other 2 vehicles, and I think it turned out. You really can't tell that much, but if you put one that you did do it with and one you didn't side by side, you'd be able to tell. Okay, so here is the stars as well. All right, and where's my glasses so I can find myself? There we are. All right, let's hide the rest of these decals. We don't need them anymore. We want to get water to get on them. All right, so we got our little pot of water here. Let's get our tweezers. So I can't recommend that paint remover, but that's all right. I don't think it did anything. We'll be fine. We will be okay. So, all right, let's get our micro. I think it's micro set. I can't remember which one goes first. So micro set goes first, then micro sol on the top. The vinegar one goes first. Which one smells like vinegar? That's the one. Woo! All right. It probably smells pleasant if you're a sadist that likes the smell of white vinegar. I don't judge. There's just something wrong with you if you like that. I worked at a grocery store when I was younger. When that stuff spilled, you might as well just go run away. Okay, so we're going to go to the spot here where this is going to go. And we're going to brush this on. Okay. And then we're going to put this cementepowanic or whatever it is. We'll call it death of the fascist. Let that sit in there for a little bit. Wish I had a container that the sides weren't so high on this. All right. If I make a mistake, the whole world will see, hey, I'm not afraid of admitting that I make mistakes. I try to do things perfect, but I figure it's encouraging. We need to let that sit a little bit longer. That's strange because the other tank, it seemed like they came off pretty easy. You know, a lot of people will see something and go, man, I can't do that. It's, and they get painter's paralysis. And, well, I'm doing these videos because it helps me stay on task. But I can see it also, it would benefit someone who's maybe afraid of possibly making a mistake and just realize, hey, look, even those of us that are experts, shit happens, you know? We don't want it to. Okay, and then we're gonna move it on here to where we want it. Let's use something a little bit less. I had a toothpick last time. Here we go. Let's use a toothpick. Not as abrasive. Oh, let's get it move a little bit more. There we go. All right, we're going to have the star over in this zone here. I think I'm pretty happy with that. And there's all kinds of videos that you guys can see about how to do this. And lots of people have different methods. You just have to pick whichever one's right for you. Maybe look at several of them and then realize that you want to do it yet a different way. Hey, that works also. I just think still moving around. Okay. Let's take a little bit of moisture off this. Okay, and I think it's probably a good idea to go ahead and work on the one side first, and then I'll flip it to the other side. I like red stars on all my vehicles. I know a lot of them don't have them. I think it looks right. I wouldn't mind doing some with that white stripe on them, but it seems like those are If they're not Battle of Berlin, they're certainly 1945. So they wouldn't get strapped once they started getting close to the Western Allies. They didn't want to get strafed by them. I don't blame them, but I don't like the game 1945. It's kind of extremely one-sided. I don't think a lot of people do it either. I think the only thing I've seen people do in 1945, well, in the Eastern Front, I've seen people do Battle of Berlin and the Silo Heights. But other than that, it's just kind of, it's a little one-sided. All right, this thing should be cooked now. I ended up watching a movie that I saw a long time ago, finally finished it. The last 10 minutes of it this morning. It was a movie that I remember liking very much way back then. And I was surprised when you don't see a movie for like 20 years or 30 years how little I remember of it. I don't rewatch things very well, so we'll let that percolate a little bit longer. And it's the old 1993 version of Stalingrad. And I just finished watching it, and I didn't like it as much as I thought I liked it. And I didn't remember a lot of the details. So that's what happens when you watch a movie 30 years ago when you watch it once. I was expecting the action sequences to actually be better, but I don't know. Never need to watch Enemy at the Gate, and which I own that one, and it's not very good. But I'm thinking a lot of that movie's probably not very good because of all the English accents. Like can't you just get guys to do like Russian accents? Come on, I could do one with some minimal training. And yeah, I didn't think the 1993 version was as good as I remembered it. But I watched it's available on YouTube. Somebody illegally put it on there, dubbed in English, which I'm pretty sure my version I saw was the German version. Now, one thing I did differently on this one that I did last time, and I'm not sure if it makes a difference or if I've made a mistake and I will pay for it later. But the thing that I did differently is I had done the three tone or the three colors of the green. In other words, I took the green and I put black in it, painted the whole thing in that, then a little bit less black, and then I did the, actually it's more than three tones, it's probably five. Painted the whole thing with, dark green, then a little bit, then lightened it a little bit less, so I had a little bit less black in it, then the standard Russian green, then I added some of this yellow ochre for the highlighting. That's what I did last time, and then I sealed it and then did the decals. This time, I was so excited about painting it that I wanted it to overnight. I wanted to do the wash. I did the wash, and now I'm putting the decals over it. So I'm going to end up having to do a light wash over where the decals are, anyways, because I want them to be a little bit. They need to look a little dirty. By a little dirty, I mean, you know, they're not super bright. So we'll have to add that other step on there. I think that's probably just fine where we have this at right now. Oh, still moving. All right, let's flip this to the other side. And they say you can reactivate the stuff. If you put the microcell on it, you can move it around again. Well, what's going to get bold? Let's go ahead and put both of them in here. Let's live on the edge. So this is my tank overhaul. This is my one that I did. It was certainly in the 90s. I'm really looking forward to putting together some of the more modern ones. Not that I have any that are quick builds, but we got about 40 vehicles probably to do before I can get to that. So that's a ways away. That's a ways away before we do that. Let's go ahead and get this microset in the right place over here. There's a guy on there that posts a lot on one of the forums for tanks in the scale. Is from Portugal, and he's very prolific. He has a lot of stuff that he makes. I don't remember what his name is right now, but he hand paints all of his stuff, all of his decals, and they're a style I would call very rough. They're, I wouldn't say sloppy, but they're kind of rough. But I'm telling you, I really like the way it looks. It works because his tanks kind of look like a comic book, stuff in a comic book, and I like that kind of a look. But he's got all kinds of stuff, and I don't think he. I don't. I looked at a lot of his stuff the other day, and I don't think he uses a single decal. I just don't want to take the time to. You could paint this stuff on here, you know. Here we go. There's moving. I thought that was pretty cool. Everything, Russian red stars, everything he hand paints. And it looks very rough, but it works. I actually like the way it looks. Let's go back to using this, put some more of this. The other thing I like to show people is, you see something completed on the internet and you think, oh, this guy just did this in an afternoon. No, folks, this takes a while. Anything you do is going to take a while to do it. Things don't. And I mentioned it before, my heroes, the people that I see things, my painting heroes, that I see that they paint things that I like. My biggest motivator is when I see somebody paint something that I like better than my stuff. And it's like, you bastard, I could do that too. So I find that it invigorating to do that because this is just a trick. This is just a magic trick doing figures, doing miniatures, all this stuff. You just got to know what the recipe is for it. But I've watched many of their videos, and those jokers take the people that I really like. Yeah, they take just as long as I do doing the stuff. So that's comforting. It's not like they've got some magic bullet. They're done in moments. Okay, that ends basically at that periscope, and it's about that much meat on the other side. Meat I call the space between something and something else, so not really meat in and of itself. Let me move this thing a little bit. I don't know what speed that fan is, but it's doing the crickety crick, so let's bump it up. Summer's back here in Florida. You guys that are frozen solid in other places, I envy you. We are back in the we are back in the weather that the bugs absolutely love. Yeah, we're probably fine with it being right there. That's probably just fine. Just put that back. And we're going to do the star over on this other side. And let's close this before I tip this over. Okay, let's take a look at what the, well, I can't assemble it. We'll pop these, this just allows me to not scuff up my paintwork when I'm done, but let's take a look at this. And then this is the top. Obviously it's not, there's details and stuff to paint on there. Weathering, that sort of thing. Okay. All right, so while this is drying, let's go ahead and let's do some pin washing here with the Nuln oil. Good old Nuln oil. Top of the Pringles tube makes a great little dish for decals prep. Amongst other things you need a small dish for. So, the funny thing is, way back in the day, probably 20 years ago, that's what I used to use as my palette. I used to use the top of a Pringles can, but that's back when I used to eat Pringles cans. I don't have those anymore. I don't need any Pringles help. Let's put it that way. I'm still a gamer size medium though, so But yeah, that's what I used to use for a palette. So yeah, I'm very familiar about that. And you're right, that would probably work fine. Small sides for access, yeah. Yep, that would work. Next time I buy some, I'll have to remember to keep that. I used to use them all the time for that. For palettes. And then the paint would dry on it. I'd be rushed to get it finished. And then we found out about these wet palettes, or at least that's when I found out about them. All right, let's see if we can. I'm gonna add just a little bit on here. I'm telling you, I spent so much time building that one thing yesterday. And I don't mind taking a long time painting something, but man, just building things slowly that just drove me crazy. How long it was taking to get that done. I was having to consult pictures on the internet and all kinds of stuff. And it's not that I don't enjoy building the models. I don't enjoy cutting all the pieces out. And then many pieces you have to basically sand, or take the flash off. I detest messing with flash. I detest messing with flash. I think it's the manufacturer's responsibility to get rid of that flash. If you have a kit that has a lot of flash, then you're a shitty manufacturer in my book. And that goes for 15 millimeter figures as well. I do not like cleaning up figures. It's just really time consuming. And these parts are, man, they're difficult to hold. These tiny little things, they're really difficult to hold. I don't know that this, what I'm doing is going to making that much of a difference on here, on the center ones. I think I'm going to leave them as is. This is what we got. This is what we got to do the heavy duty stuff here. All right. And I could use enamels as well, but I'm a lot more comfortable having an unlimited supply of brush cleaner. That's what it comes down to. It's not even the fumes. I liked I liked this fender I took off. That was kind of cool doing that. I've never done anything like that. Like purposely like break something, so to speak, or make it look broken. So we're definitely going to have some more weathering on this thing other than what we put on there. But we're going to keep it relatively simple. There's lots of videos how to do weathering on vehicles out there that looks just like a real vehicle. I'm not really shooting for that. Not that I don't appreciate it, but that's just not the look that I want. I want the, you guys go and see all the stuff on Flames of War on their website, and this stuff isn't painted realistically. It doesn't mean it's painted badly. It's just not, that's not their style of being uber realistic. And that's kind of what I'm shooting for. I'm shooting for kind of a graphic novel. I think it matches the look of the figures a lot better. Now, if I was painting a 1/35th scale tank and taking it to a model show or something like that, I'd probably do that kind of thing. But unfortunately, the detail on here is not very deep. But we don't want to get photo etch sets and stuff for this. We want to keep this simple. This is just a way to paint some of my World War II stuff that I had in the bin for 20 years or so. Paint something a little different. Get the talk World War II, maybe even game World War II. Again, just like the old days. We will see. It's difficult for me. I know I brought this up before to play World War II because I'm such a zealot about it. But right now I'm just enjoying doing the vehicles. And the other challenge is I'm not going to buy an airbrush. I've thoroughly convinced myself of it. I'm not going to. I don't want the headaches that go along with cleaning and everything else. It's not for me. So I'd rather do what I'm doing slowly. And I'm pretty sure I can paint these up just fine brush painting. So the base color is just the airbrush is only useful like if I was going to spray some of it, like to make it look dusty, and I think I did okay with just the brushes. So I don't see spending a couple $100 for that. And I also live in a place that's particularly hot, so I don't want to have to do any of this hobby work in the garage where I'm uncomfortable. That's what it would turn into, and I don't really want to do that. I want to stay here in my comfort controlled room. And I'm too old to start airbrushing. Not really, but I enjoy hand painting stuff. This is probably one of the first kits that came from the former Soviet Union I ever saw. It's a company from called AER. I don't know if they're still in business. They're from Moldova. So that is over there by the Romanian border. I think they're still in business. There's so many companies now that do this that weren't around back when I was buying these things. Now let's give this a thin wash here. I don't know if this is going to work as intended, but we will see. Because there's just a thin layer of paint on here, but there's not much detail. There's not very much deep detail here on the grading. I think there's a split here. Looks like there's a split here. Do you have all serial numbers for T-34s? I don't know what you mean by that. I don't think I want to put a tank number on this one. A lot of these don't. Good morning, Michael. How are you? A lot of these pictures of these later tanks, they don't have tank numbers on them that you notice. I don't know how they would keep track of them, or even if they did. I have no idea. All right, and we need to do the turret roof, but I think we're going to. We may need to leave the turret alone for a little bit. I think this is set long enough. Let's go ahead and drop some of this microsol on it. This is supposedly going to soften the decal up and make the edges disappear. I used it last time and it worked great. That's what I was told I needed to do, and I did it, and I'm happy with the results. So by God, we're going to do it again. That's what we did. So if something works, there's no reason to change that. But yeah, I don't think I won't be putting numbers on this one. The early war stuff seems to have more, and some of the other ones do too. But we wanted to put cursing, just like the 1941 stuff, like BTs and stuff. They don't usually have the slogans and stuff on there. Doesn't mean you can't do it, but you know, I have another one of these, so we need to do. I really want to get to the point where at some point I do one with some whitewash. And I think if I did the whitewash, I would probably finish it in green and then come in with a small brush and whitewash it. And unfortunately, I think to make it look realistic, it's going to look like crap. I don't think there's any way to get around that. So you mentioned serial numbers, Marchin, and the problem with serial numbers reminds me of the Americans, and their markings are almost like a serial number. Like all the Wehrmacht vehicles, I think that they come with a little serial number thing on there, like a license plate on there. And Germans were big on having other people seeing other people's papers. So yeah, your papers, your registration papers. They have all these little kind of Wehrmacht type license plate, or be WH if it was Wehrmacht, WL if it was Luftwaffe, and of course the dreaded SS vehicles had the little SS rune things on there. But the Americans have theirs will have like a long series of numbers that'll be it'll have the division hidden in there and stuff like that. And I may put some of those on American vehicles, and I may just, oh look, they got covered with mud right where they're supposed to be, because I don't want to match serial numbers with actual tanks. My preference is to not build actual vehicles. You know, I don't want to paint when I go to do the Shermans. I don't want to do the decals that are specific for certain vehicles. So, and those will have names on them, and I'm probably going to hand paint them. The nicknames. Probably going to have nicknames for all my American vehicles painted on the side of them. I'm thinking, even though that may not be common or whatever, but yes, on that turret, there's the famous Polish 234-102 Rudy from TV series. Okay. Yeah, I got lots of Polish decals, but I'm not making any Polish T-34s. And it's not because I don't like Poles. I just don't think Poles should be fighting for the backstabbing Russians. I'm not even Polish, and that kind of pisses me off. The whole they got the 1-2. So if I make any Polish vehicles, they'd be the 1939 stuff, which honestly is pretty darn cool. Yeah, I'm not making any communist Polish stuff. Now, if I was doing Cold War stuff, I wouldn't mind building some Poles because they had, I think, they had a pretty decent armed forces as far as quality for Warsaw Pact. I've thought about doing that, but you can't do everything. But if I was gonna do Cold War stuff, I would do that Pico armor, which I think is actually from Poland, and they make stuff in, is it 3 mil? Yeah, I think it's 3 millimeter. And I'd do something probably in the late 50s. So that way you can have some Americans with those heavy tanks, those M103s. I think that's what they're called. Just some different stuff that you don't normally use. I would never do something that involved like the Abrams. That's just, I like things a little bit more balanced than that. But I don't have time for that. I don't already have these. I mean, I wouldn't go out and buy these now. I just have had these for like 20 years, and I'm like, well, let's use some of my modern skills painting some of these old things that I already have. So, kind of having fun doing that. All right, let's give this another coat of the microsol, and then we'll let it dry, and then we will eventually clear coat this in flat, and then we can move forward and dirty this up. Yeah, no commie Polish stuff for me, not for World War II. Okay. All right, we'll let that dry. I don't know how long this takes. I'm certainly not going to wait 24 hours. That kind of stuff is stupid. I don't wait. I'm impatient when it comes to stuff like that. Allow decal to dry completely. Okay. Well, I don't know how long that's going to be, but we'll come mess with it about 9. How about that? We'll leave the turret washing and stuff to that. So no, I didn't piss off any Polish communists. Okay, well, good. Well, I don't care. All right. It was funny. I have a video game that I played, and they make it for the computer as well. I happen to have it for the Xbox One, and they're actually are a series of games. They don't make them anymore. And it's a shame because I think they're brilliant by a company that's I think it was part of Slytherin called Shenandoah Studios, and they make 2 of them. One's called Drive on Moscow. The other one's called Battle of the Bulge, and they're a simple, almost like a counters type game, area of movement, not necessarily hexes. And it's simple, but it's like helps you think. It's a really good thinking game, and I think it looks really elegant. And I was playing one of them. Good morning, John Peter. I was playing Drive on Moscow the other day, and my daughter, who's 15, was listening to it, and I was playing the Soviets. And when your turn comes up, because it's basically you move 1 unit, your opponent moves 1 unit, and then a random amount of time passes. So you can't move everybody, and so you need to prioritize who you're going to move and how many turns you're going to get is kind of random. So it's kind of cool in that respect. But when your turn comes up, at the beginning of every day, it'll like do like a little. I think for the Soviets, there's like 4 or 5 different little songs that'll play, and they're Red Army type chanting, marching through Red Square type things. And my daughter's like, "You turn that shit off. I don't want to hear that." I'm just playing a game, and so I'm glad she's not going to grow up and be a communist anytime soon. Or the people that they were fighting against either. You don't want to do that either. But I thought that was pretty. I thought that was pretty funny. But in a game, I'll play anybody for any cause. You know. I do want to get into doing some World War II gaming because if we film some of it, man, Luke is going to be a hoot when he plays the Russians. I'm just telling you, that's just going to be, he's going to be a hoot playing the Russians. So, and then we'll have to switch to drinking vodka, of course. So. Over ice. Wouldn't want it any other way. All right. So at this point, I gotta wait for this to dry. So we can go ahead and do dry brushing on here. Oh, one thing before dry brushing, I am gonna paint some barren metal on this stuff. Okay. So this is the part that would rub against the top, the tracks. So let's go ahead and let's get the darkest one we have, which is this lead belcher. And do we need to use the paint palette for this? I don't think I do. I think I could just use the drippings of the paintbrush, of the thing here. And this should be able to do fine. And what the drippings mean is when I transfer this thing over, take a look at this. This is why I'm not going to transfer any more of these over, because the whole point in doing it is to not have a mess. Watch what happens when I open this. There's freaking paint everywhere. So I'm not even going to take any out. We're just going to use what's in the cap here, because it's going to be, and I am going to use like a, let's get one of these. Let's get one of these shims. This is the other thing I used to use as a palette, these shims here. And all we're going to do is we'll come in here and these spots where, now I may not like this effect, okay? So be warned. We're going to paint this. I know, I'm probably spending too much time on this for a War Games model, but I'm waiting for the other thing to dry, so I might as well, I might as well do some of that. And we're going to dry brush over this. So some of this may show how this may be just in total vein. Let's do this at these edges and then we'll come back and do the other side. Meaning I'll flip it this way and get to it. This is why I don't paint figures on popsicle sticks, because I don't feel that with a popsicle stick, I'm going to be able to get and turn it around enough different places. I could be wrong, but that's why I never popsicle sticked it. Okay, so we all did this. Okay. You come over here. You know what? Let's move things out of the way. Let's not have that problem. This is the other reason why I haven't assembled it together yet. And I thought about adding some metal weights or something in here so this thing has some heft, but the problem with that is then it weighs so much and I don't want to put stress on these plastic parts where it could fall apart on me. All right, so now we've got, let's compare the two sides. We got that with none of it on there compared to that with some of it on there. Nothing huge, but it's just something to do. All right, let's do the other side and then we'll do the tracks. Let's see. I keep decals on 1/72 tacks to a minimum, enough to identify different vehicles, can use them in more than one nation. T5 is Russia, North Korea, or other client states, for example. Never thought about doing that. And the reason why is because it's the same reason why I do when I paint my medieval knight armies. I don't want to make a generic medieval knight army. I want to make Germans or French or English or whatever, because it's my excuse to paint other ones. I want them to have my own little take on it. But I think most people do what you're talking about, Jeffrey. Most people do, something so they can morph it into different things. But I certainly don't have any generic knight armies. Now, if we're doing a video, we're shooting a video, we need to make up some British or whatever, or English. Sorry, no British and no British knights. If you call them British, the knights hadn't been invented yet, and or they're past the time period of that. But anyhow, Britons. We'll add the other units, but I don't want to purposely build an army that's generic. But that's me. I'm probably the exception to that. But just like I try not to do generic heraldry. That's just one of the things I enjoy doing. I don't mind having to paint more of those guys. Because I could have just used my Hungarians. I could have just used the deep knights from the Germans for the Hungarians. I don't want to go crazy and do too much of it. All right, and then what I'm going to do is, since this is done, supposedly, let's put this away. Let's grab one of the type of brushes that I rarely use. These little flat bastards. I got one of these that isn't loved very much, and we find it. And this is only some of my brushes. Cheap. Okay. And we're going to come and grab some of the stuff here. Actually, we're going to dry brush this, so let's come over here. And we've already given them like a rust type of color on here. Let's come in just lightly and go over it. There's all kinds of different people. Some people paint the tracks, don't rust them at all. Some people make them super rusty. I'm going to do this, and then we're going to, it's going to have some of the ground color mixed in with it as well. Okay. And let's see what we can do to the inside, if anything at all. But we want to do the edges. We did like 3 shades of this. I actually mixed up some orange, brown, and black, and that's what I started painting these tracks with. There's a million different ways people do tracks, so silver doesn't even show up at all. Almost. There you go. A little bit showing. I want to go kind of light. I don't want that to be super bright. Okay. And I prefer to build different levels up and paint up as I go than to use a wash. I find a wash kind of not very controlling. I try to minimize how much of a washing I do. I feel like it doesn't give me the control I want it to have. So, and I guess it has to do with when you do dry brushing and stuff like that, it's a slow buildup, not just a wash and, oh, there you go. Oh, it's too far, you know? What do you do now? Well, repaint it. Yeah, we don't need to paint the bottom of that. This is, like I said, these are war game models. Doesn't mean you look like crap, but it also means that you can end up doing a lot more than you need to. Okay, that's it for now. Now, it's probably still not done yet, is it? The turret. Well, we got it in 3 different pieces. We can weather the bottom 2 parts. Okay, coffee. Liquid motivation, as I like to call it. All right, we already used, this is the color that we used in the wash. So if you know my 3 methods that I use for my regular basing, it's chocolate brown, field drab, and Iraqi sand. So when I made my wash, I used this. So we don't use this anymore. Or I won't use that anymore. We're going to use just these 2 to dry brush. That's what I did on these other 2 vehicles, and I really like how it turned out. So that's what we're going to go with. Let's see if we can get a brush that we don't mind abusing a little bit. And the fact is, when you do this dry brushing stuff, you're letting some of the paint dry on the bristles, and you're mistreating it without really wanting to mistreat it. Just part of the process, unfortunately. But that's why we don't buy expensive brushes. Oh, too much. Man, that's a lot of that there. Okay. All right, so let's do the stuff on the ground here. All right, let's not screw this up and have to do it over again. Now, I know I'm covering up just about everything that I already did, but it does make a difference. I've tried to cut corners and not, and it looks a lot better when you don't cut corners. Now this part is just, this is just going to be filthy. A lot of this stuff just kicks up all over the place. Maybe it rained and some of it washed off. My fluff story of what the crew of this tank has been up to since the last time it rained. I like this because this is mindless, so to speak. You don't have to make any decisions about what color am I going to do this. You just kind of have to decide how you're going to do it. And then just do it. Now see if we can kind of compare the color-wise of how this is. It doesn't even show. It even doesn't even show much on the on the uh, on the screen. But I do want the green showing before I get to the lighter color, so that you can see the depth of the different shades. Otherwise, you kind of wasted your time even putting green on it. Okay. Now, coffee. Some light over here. There we go. Now this area, there's no mud guard, so this area is going to be particularly dirty. By the same token, I really don't want to cover over much of where that black lining is, because then I just have to do it again. Okay. And that just creates extra work for myself. And man, we got a lot more vehicles to do. I don't need to create more work for myself. Back in the old days when I used to keep buying things even when I didn't finish things. You know, kind of like you guys do now. I don't do that anymore. Or I like to think I don't do that anymore. That's I'd like to think that I learned from that. Kind of with a mindset of buying things and not doing anything with them is pretty unsatisfying. We got a saw or something to paint on the side of this. What molded into the side of the hole here. Let's take a look at this. Remember, we got to also put a lighter shade on top of that. I don't know if it's that noticeable on the camera. Let's compare this to the green that's here. Okay. Okay. Do you think this is dry now? How would I even know? Let's put a flat coat on it. I said I was going to wait till 9. Nope, not waiting. Flat clear. testers, you and your damn bottles. And I pulled this out the first time, and I'm like, oh, I don't like this material at all. Let's use a new one for this. There we go. Got one back here. I always try to find use for these square ones. They're not very useful. You'd think they'd be easier to paint like the sides of a stand or something like that since your brush is square. It's not. It's a lot easier to not use that. All right. Okay, same thing on the other side. All right, let's let that dry. This is just water wash up acrylic. And then we'll end up dirting over that. Okay. All right. So you can see the track color is almost the same color as the actual road wheels, which is not a bad look, in my opinion. All right, now, which one of these did we use as the dry brusher? This thing? Yeah, all right. So let's go ahead and go use Iraqi sand, one of the most useful colors I have. Now we need to go really light on this. That's what it's going to look like. It's from Iraq. And that's not really the look we want. The other side here. See, I'm actually pretty happy the way those tracks look. They're actually nice looking tracks. They've got a nice detail on there. And I've seen people do tracks that are really, really rusty looking. Not really my preference. I figured they would freaking seize up, you know, if that was the case. Let's see, I painted the edge silver. I guess you can make it up in a couple, you can see it in a couple different places, but for the most part it's dirt. I mean, look at the detail really pops on that. Now, I could tell if I would not have been able, if wouldn't have done the glaze on there, because I wouldn't have been able to get the brown and the deep recesses. So, all right, let's work our way up. Same tactic here. It's a tactic, not a strategy. Look at this again. There we go. This. So like I'm gonna forego doing any chipping and stuff like that. That just makes I think makes the vehicle look too realistic compared to the look of the figures. It doesn't mean I don't like how it looks. I just think it looks better than a real vehicle, and I prefer a more War Games miniatures look. Doesn't need to be that. That doesn't mean that they have to be unrealistic looking, but yeah. You do want to keep this a little sooty back here. If there's a part that's all that way, it's going to be back here. I think we're to the point where we can take this off. Now I'll put my glass on and see what the hell I've been doing. I'm too close to too close to it. I can't tell what I'm doing. Okay. And now let's compare to what we have over here. So I think the road wheels turned out really, really well. We're probably going to keep working on the other stuff on it as well. All right. There's no way this is dry enough, because what we're going to have to do is we're going to do a little bit of a wash over the letters. So anyhow, so that is most of this, and we got to paint the saw and those kind of details. So and we're gonna, when we're done with this, we're going to put a layer of flat on it. We're going to brush on some really, really flat. Although you can tell the part where the road wheels are at, that was the part that had a glaze on it, and the glaze is flattening many aspects. So the road wheels are pretty darn flat right now, but this dry brushing, since it's so thin, sometimes you end up rubbing it off just by grabbing it. So, okay. You have a few more parts to put on this ISU 122. I think I'm going to go ahead and do that while we're waiting, so that way we can finish the turret. Alright, so there's some details that were around the front of the barrel. Let's go grab the B12s wherever they are in here. Oh, we got extra track and stuff to put on here too. Let's see. Oh yeah, here we go. Man, these parts are so darn small. Should be 4 of these little boogers. There's 1. There's 2. There's 3. And of course, none of these pieces have any markings on where they sit on the actual vehicle. You have to look at the drawing, and but here's these 4 minuscule little pieces. Okay. All right, and they go around. Okay, 2 of them go just to the side of here, so we're going to go ahead and put those 2, and the other ones go around the corner on this piece. All right. So start off by, where's the magic cement? Let's find out what we got here. I'm like, where'd they go? They're right here. Jeez, they're just too darn. They're just too darn small. They're just too darn small. That might actually work better. All right, let's get our glue. Let's move this off to one side. We don't need a surprise. I don't like surprises. Surprises are always bad. All right. go right there. Now, the problem with working on this stuff is that the height that I normally work at this at, I can't tower over the table, and I kind of have to do it over the table because if one of these falls on the floor, we might as well just bid it goodbye. Now, which way are these things facing? They're up and down. Got it. So they're going to be, whew, they're going to be like this. Now light's in the way. There we go. So let's get it in place. There we go. Let's get it in place. I'm going to put this cement. And then let's move it in place. Okay, let's do the other side. This takes a hell of a lot more patience than any painting I've ever done. I honestly think the painting is easy. Faces, any of that stuff, piece of cake. This is a pain in the ass. And honestly, I'd be surprised if most people that build this actually put all these little parts on there. They're probably like, ah, that's good enough. I don't really blame them. Okay, that looks good. And then the other two are over here on the side. They're over here and over here. You can't do this with fingers, or they end up getting stuck to your finger and so forth. Even though this cement isn't really cement, it's just almost like softening. It softens the plastic, but it softens the plastic enough that it gets stuck to your fingers. Whee! You see that little guy jump? It's like messing with fleas. Smaller, even. Let's just get it. Jeez. Whoa. That was close. All right, we got it on that side now. No sudden movements. That's crazy that I had to put those things on there. And they're not marked anywhere at all. So. Oh boy. All right, what else we got missing on here? It wasn't much. We got that machine gun to put on the top. We'll leave that fun thing for last. Oil cans. Oil cans didn't fit right on the side. Actually, they had like a round part, like the joint between the ends. There was like a round part, and then one side was supposedly was like round, and then one edge was flat. So you know how to arrange it. I couldn't get the two halves to fit in there, so I finally just chopped that off and just glued it on there. You know, it's not the most precise kit. If you're used to doing Tamiya kits, don't go and build one of these, because this is the polar opposite of what you'd want to do. Okay, we got everything done here. All right, the machine gun looks like it's 5 parts. Holy shit. Better put that thing on there, because this thing has got no point defense at all. It's got a 122 millimeter cannon that you know is not going to be able to fire every turn, and it has no point defense against infantry. You're still going to have to go crew exposed to fire this big 50 cal. That's what this thing is. No, big nasty. All right, let's take there, there. Okay. And then this is also a part. So here's the big, which we need to clean the flash off that thing. And here is this part also. Okay. And B11 is B11 is like there's like a little thing that sits on top. Okay, cool. And then we got the ammo thing as well. And that is B25. B25, B25, 23, 27, 28, 29. Extra handles it gave you. I see no 25. Oh, here it is. It's hidden over here. Take that off. Okay. And then we have the little mount that it sits on. And that one is B27. B27, which is here. You guys are all quiet working away on your stuff. Hey, I don't blame you. That's what I'd be doing as well. Okay, let's clean up this machine gun. I don't remember what it's called right now. DSHK or something like that. This is the part I hate doing. Because the problem is there's hardly anywhere to grab it from. It's amazing how infrequently you cut yourself in doing stuff like this. I shouldn't be talking like that. No, I'm being careful. Don't need to put hardly any pressure on it. You're just cutting plastic. I mean, this is like fishing with a nuclear weapon. It's pretty much overkill. Okay, now I don't know why it doesn't have a little piece drilled on it. I'm sure I'm going to have to drill that out. This has got a post. Okay. So this part is going to fit like this. Okay. All right, cool. Take that off. Yeah, see, this is like, I need to scrape this off. How in the hell do I grab this thing? You know, that's the problem. It's a grabbing issue. Okay, that's pretty cleaned up. I don't know that I can do any more than that. This is a crap mold, I'll be honest with you. This is going to go around the edge of the stand, but somehow I need to find a way to get that inside, or there's going to be no way that's going to stand there balancing. Let's see what we got here. My dumb I could do it. Yeah. No. All right, so let's go bigger than this one. Let's just work it out bigger. About one of those made in China type sets of a bunch of different drill bits, and just threw away the thing that came in. Just way too flimsy. Just go back to putting it in a matchbox. It's too big. It's too big. It's too big. It's too big. We need to go. Let's try this one. That's better. You know, actually, it's getting close to the edge on the other one. If it breaks through, it's not the end of the world. But let's enlarge this other side first. Now let's see if this fits in there. A little bit more. I think we're on the right track. A lot of this stuff is it's just too small to hold. It's not too small to work with. It's not that I can't see it. It's not that I'm going to cut myself. It's just I got nowhere to hold these little things from. And they don't weigh anything either. Yeah, buddy. We need to trim this down a little bit. Whew. All right, we're in there. Now, where does this thing go? It goes off to one side. This is going to sit on here like so. It slides anywhere it goes all the way around it. So I'm thinking it might actually be better just having it facing the front. All right, this is another part that needs to go on here. Goes underneath it. Yeah. So this is sitting underneath it like so. Okay. Are both sides the same? They sure look like it. The brush on this thing is amazing. So whenever I'm done with this glue, I actually bought 3 glues. I bought the old Testors one that's the same, and I bought the micro weld. I'm going to use it in this container and replace it. That brush is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Okay. All right, we got B11 sticks out the top. Okay, and it does have a little, which is that piece right there. We'll leave that on there and cut this other one off. I don't think that little tab has anywhere to go. We're just gonna take that thing off because I know where I need to mount this thing. Mount this thing. Nope. Goes back here. There's nowhere for that tab to go. Okay. And then this ammo box looking thing. It's kind of like this. I need to take. Last piece on here for this. I have it set like this. Okay. Now, where's that ring mount? Oh boy. Well, it was here a moment ago. Well, sometimes the weight, oh, it's where it needs to be, up there. Yeah, we're going to glue this on the front. So let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and glue this on the mount. We'll put the mount down here. This is a nice model. It's probably not going to be much good for wargaming because somebody's going to break the barrel down, break this thing off. I'm not going to claim who it is. It better be me. Okay, we'll glue this. Let this set. It's up at a little angle like that. And then we'll come back and glue that on there. No comments. You guys are having fun. Okay. Or you fell asleep. Never can tell. How's that flat we did on the turret? Let's see. Where is it? You know, I did do the brown weathering already. So now I just need to go over the part where the decal is. One's probably enough. Good morning, Kevin. Hey, you slept in for once. Perfect. All right, so we're just going to go over this lightly. Okay, just a little bit. So not make it as bright as it would normally be. We're going to let that dry. to rinse this thing off. Now, I know I talked about this earlier. These new plastic shims I have. Let me see if I can find the other ones that I have. I believe they're the same thickness as this one. It is. It just has stuff on it. This is what we're going to base our vehicles on. And it's these two in particular. I could make 2 stands out of this thing right here. And I actually have sheet magnets that I'm going to have on the bottom of this. That's what we're going to put these on. Now, I'm going to end up handling these guys. Let me do something. I should be able to do these the way they are. We're going to take my favorite flat coat stuff here, which is a brush on. Let's get this off to the side. Move these guys out of the way just so we've got a little bit more operating room. We're going to let that machine gun sit there set for a little while. Let's get a paintbrush. All right. We're going to go ahead and seal these. This stuff. It's going to make them extra, 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 extra flat. And I don't care if this is on there thick. We just can't go over anything. In other words, when you go over an area, you need to let it dry. And if I miss a spot, if I still see something shiny, I can come back through and redo that. These already have a gloss coat on them, so they are sealed. Just the final stage here of this weathering is not sealed on it. Looking for what's not wet. Okay. And then we'll actually wait for this to dry, and then we'll put the turret on there, and then and then do the turret on that same spot. Let's pull this off. Okay, same thing with the BT. And there's nothing really, there's some shine on the top. So let's make sure we get that, take that shine off. Is this distracting? And this equipment here is shiny. And this is lacquer based. So this is pretty durable. And dries relatively quickly. Just for good measure, we will do the wheels on the side. If you miss something in a crevice, it's probably a spot you're not going to grab anyways with your fingers. I could have just done a spray coat, but the problem with the spray is I get it more in places that I don't really need it and not in others. So this is mostly just to take the shine off. Okay. And let's see, can I get away with doing this? Let's try it. Okay. Do you have the barrel? There we go. Okay. And let's do the same thing with this T-26. Well, it's a T-26 turret. It's the same turret as on a T-26 tank, but it's for the BA-6 armored car. These are BP cast models, and they're very rough. But I'll be damned if they didn't paint up nicely. Okay. And let's get the spirits for this. We gotta use the heavy duty stuff for this right here. Boom, 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 boom. So what we're going to do is after these are dry, we're going to pop these off. We're going to measure these and epoxy them down, and because this is the look that we want. We want the rounded corners, and I believe I just cut these off with a toenail clipper. This is the one that I actually use for my hobby, and so you can see it doesn't have a lot more give. It's I've been clipping things that are pretty tough, so it's seen better days. But it's like a freaking $1 at Walgreens, so should have bought several more because I'm going to need them. I know I'm going to need more of them, but okay. So while we're waiting for that to dry, which shouldn't take that long, this stuff dries pretty quick. Let's move this over here. Move this over here. All right. And right, so let's glue this machine gun down. It should be ready for that at this point. Oh, it doesn't sit by itself because it's like that. Let me see. We may need to use a drop of super glue on this and then still weld it in place. Maybe epoxy. Could just have it backwards on the back of this. It goes all the way around. Yeah, even these handles, they're rough. The problem is there's no way you can sand these without grabbing them, so maybe this is the time to sand them down once they're attached to the tank. Still have to go pretty light on them. Hold on one moment. All right, so let's take a look and see. Ah, it's still wet. Damn it. I guess I could take a hair dryer to it. I want this thing to dry so we can dry brush this this little guy here, and then put all the pieces together and see what it looks like. See what it looks like. Still got a little bit to do on the front here, where it meets the bottom, but should look pretty good. Okay, that's that machine gun, huh? Let's punt on that. It's pretty flimsy. It doesn't really need that on it. I mean, for a war game thing, there's the game I play has different counters. Like I said, I'm not planning on on painting anytime on playing that anytime soon, per se. But yeah. So we're gonna need the files for this part. Ah, yes, music to our ears. Let's. I had a little metal straight edge that just totally has disappeared where it's going. So I know I'm gonna want some meat across this thing. other words, I want some of it sticking out, but not a whole lot. So I'm thinking, where's that straight edge? This one will look like metal ones. I don't have to worry about cutting into this thing, but this one should work fine. I've had this for who knows how many years. I never did a damn thing with it. Okay. Where's that mark? Here it is. So let's just double check it again. Yeah, now. Length, okay, cool. Width, yeah, it's good. All right. All right, so let's take this. Don't move on me. Man, it seems narrow. It's a narrow vehicle. And we're going to cut this a few more times, and then we should be able to snap break it. And you see how I did this one? This has very, very little on there. We're gonna do more than this. So it's like stuck in there. It's sitting in the material. Not like a snowbank or anything, but okay. Man, that's really narrow. Let's pull this thing off and compare. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Okay. So a couple things. We want to take our sandpaper, because this is slicker than snot right now. I thought I had it around here somewhere. Oh, it's over there. Isn't that always the case? Oh, I forgot all about the Jeep. Oh my goodness. We forgot all about the Jeep. How'd I do that? Oh well. Because this is so smooth that you're not going to get it good. Doesn't take much, just enough to. Okay, now the stuff will adhere to this, and so will this. All right, so let's take off the corners. We want to do a 90-degree corner. Okay. Doesn't have to be perfect. And yes, we're going to sand these down. Hey, want this thing to look nice. All right, let's take, I guess we could use this one. That should work fine. The nice thing about this material, it's already black. So if something happens where the end gets scuffed, you know I like the end of my things black anyways. I'm not going to paint the ends of the vehicles black, but if it shows, it's going to be less of an eyesore than if it was, say, red or something like that, obviously. So okay. Now, I'm going to put a magnet on the bottom. I've got sheet magnets. I'm not going to go all the way to the edge. So I'm actually thinking of, if this is the edge, maybe stopping it short by a little bit. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. That's so I can carry these guys in some kind of a metal carrying case and be fine. I'm thinking I want to leave the side that I'm going to stick the magnet to be really, really slick so I get a good grip on it. So that's my reasoning on it. I'm thinking that's what I'm going to go with. So can we break this thing off yet? You can tell I'm impatient. Let's try this. Bam. Okay, let's see how this looks. I know some people, like this particular vehicle does not need to be on a stand, okay? But say a vehicle like this one that has a separate link track, I wouldn't want this loose and somebody picking it off and one of the pieces of the track coming off. So this is going to have to be on a stand. So they might as well put them all on stands instead of some and not others. Make a sense? Right. It's going to sit this on top. This is what this guy's going to look like. Okay. And there's enough meat here on the side where I can put it inside of terrain, but not so much that I'm building a freaking diorama. Okay. So, and these colors that we splashed up on the vehicle are the same ones that are going to be in the terrain. So it should all tie together. All right. So this is the one for, I thought I had a white pencil, a white marker. Maybe I have one at work and that's what I'm thinking of. Okay. So this is the base for the BT7. And what I meant is, I forgot to coat this guy with the sealant. Oh well, we got to do the T34 anyways at some point, so that's when we'll do it at the same time. So, track color, what do you guys think? I'm pretty happy with the color this track came out. I want it to be rustish, but I don't want it to be orange. And these are the same colors that you're going to find in the groundwork on this thing. So I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. All right, T34 turret, are you dry yet? You're working on it. Okay. And I could probably cut some of this from the front and back, but I'm thinking I want the stand to be bigger than the tank so it doesn't knock into something. Now, obviously, if I've got something like a Panther, I can't have it overhang that belongs 75, but I'm thinking this probably. And the magnets, sheet magnets is about this thickness, so we're looking at having something like this. And the fact that there's going to be a little bit of a gap should make it easier to pick it up off of the carrying case. I'm thinking. Okay. My opinion can be changed after my first experience, so we will see. We'll see about that. All right. Right. Let's take a look at some. Just dry, yeah. Well, I'll try some of this stuff off. Let's dry brush this. I don't want to wait no more. Remember, all my 15 millimeter figures, I'm ready to roll from one process right into the other. I don't have to wait for drying, so that's what I'm used to. So if it was dry enough, a lot of this is, you can't expect to get the desired result in one pass. It's going to take, a build up. So you try doing it at one time and blow it. Okay, and then we need to go with the lighter shade, which is Iraqi sand. This seems to be a good all-around color for dry brushing, is this Iraqi sand. I'm gonna go really light. It's like, what's going on? Oh, the phone's blocking some of the... I want these hard edges to pop on the turret. I don't know that I need to do more than that. Let's put it all together. That's the problem with painting on here, is you end up getting paint on your stuff. That's why I don't. That's why I'm so anal about stuff, because in every time I put something here, I invariably get paint on it. Okay. That calls for a drink. Coffee, of course. Let's see what we're dealing with here. This isn't sitting down all the way. How strange. All right, and I had already done this too. Let's take some more of this off. Now, some of this paint isn't going to be showing, but that's okay. This is kind of hidden. There we go. And then let's see what we might want to work on some more. Get that dirty spot off me. Okay, get it over. And this looks okay. It's kind of crude. It looks a lot better than than the other one did. How it was before. But to be continued, we're probably going to end up adding. It's funny. It looks a lot greener on the TV on the screen than it does in real life. But that's just one of those. Yeah, just one of those things. It looks very green. Okay, so this is what we're going to start out. We're going to have to paint the saw and things like that on here. But I think all in all, it turned out. Yeah, you still have some of the black showing through, some dry brushing. It's funny. I look at the screen here, and it looks like there's almost no dry brushing here. See, has the full color, but in real life, that's not the case. So looks it's a case of it being distorted. But yeah, is this guy done too? Let's pull the armored car off. Let's see, if I was going to do these guys in snow camouflage, what I would do. Well, this is strange. This is how warped this figure is. It doesn't even look how much is sticking up off. Well, you can't tell, but it's not even. When we put it on a stand, it'll be riding on a little rise there. But yeah, that's what. Man, it looked really green in the picture. But anyhow, we'll take pictures of them later and see how they look. We've got some tinkering that we're going to do on here. I may end up making some things out of sculpting some stuff out of green stuff, putting some extra packs on it so it looks more lived in. Honestly, the T-34 is kind of too clean looking, but I think the decals work pretty well. There's no shine to them. They look almost painted on. So, but anyhow, that's what we're going to do this morning, 2.5 hours. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and this is the beginnings of the little red army here of vehicles. So okay, folks, catch you guys next time, and enjoy your Sunday. Bye bye.